2 empty chairs. That's what greeted me when I walked across the stage at Stanford. Thousands of parents were screaming, air horns were blasting, and cameras were flashing like a lightning storm. But in the reserved section, row A, seats 4 and 5 were dead empty. No mother, no father, just the cold metal stare of folding chairs that cost more to rent than the attention my parents ever gave me. I shook the dean's hand. I took the diploma that proved I was a certified financial actuary. I smiled for the official photo, but my blood was already running 0 degrees. As I walked off the stage, the heavy velvet curtain hiding the wings of the auditorium swallowed me whole. That's when my phone buzzed against my thigh. One single vibration. I pulled it out, expecting an excuse. Traffic was bad. Dad felt sick. The usual lies. Instead, I got a notification from the DMV. Transfer of title confirmed. 1968 vintage Mercedes SL. New owner, cash for cars, auto lot. Followed immediately by a text from my mother, Aurelia. Honey, don't be mad. We had to sell your grandmother's car. Sterling's yacht party went over budget, and we couldn't let your brother look poor in front of his friends. You're smart. You can buy another one later. Love you. I stared at the screen. That car wasn't just a vehicle. It was the only thing my grandmother left me. It was my freedom, and they had liquidated it for a 3-hour boat ride for my brother Sterling, a boy who hasn't finished a book since the 4th grade. Most daughters would have collapsed. Most would have cried in the bathroom until their mascara ran down their neck. I didn't shed a tear. Instead, a slow, terrified smile spread across my face. You see, my parents thought they were the ones playing chess. They thought they could strip me of my assets to fund their golden child, but they forgot what I majored in. They forgot that for the last 6 months, I haven't just been studying for finals. I've been buying their debt. They sold my car? That's fine, because tomorrow morning, I'm going to foreclose on their lives. To understand why I didn't scream, you have to understand the math. For the last 6 years, I haven't just been their daughter. I've been their unpaid CFO, their crisis manager, and their darkest secret keeper. My parents, Richard and Linda, run a boutique real estate firm in San Diego. On Instagram, it looks like an empire, selling sunset-style, designer suits, champagne open houses, leased Range Rovers. But behind the filters, the business was bleeding out. I was 16 when I first found the IRS notices hidden in my father's desk drawer. He hadn't filed payroll taxes in 2 years. He was terrified. He was crying in the kitchen at 2 a.m., drinking scotch and staring at a foreclosure notice. I didn't HUD him. I fixed it. I spent my entire junior year of high school learning tax law. I negotiated a payment plan with the IRS. I restructured their debt. I cut overhead by 40%. I saved them from federal prison. And do you know what I got for my 16th birthday? A heartfelt thank you card and a promise that things would be different. Do you know what Sterling got for his 16th birthday 2 weeks later? A brand new lifted truck and a trip to Coachella. That was the dynamic. I produced the capital. Sterling consumed it. I was the engine. He was the hood ornament. They called him visionary because he had expensive hobbies. They called me reliable. In my family, reliable is just a polite word for exploitable. The worst moment, the one that really turned my heart into the block of ice it is today, happened last summer. I had landed a dream internship at a top actuarial firm in New York. It was my ticket out. It was going to pay $40 an hour, housing included. I was packed. I was ready. Then my mother sat me down on the edge of my bed, her eyes welling up with those practiced alligator tears. "Aurelia, we can't let you go," she sniffled. "Dad's back is hurting, and the market is tough. We need you to run the office this summer. We can't afford to hire a manager. If you leave, the business collapses. Do it for family." I stayed. I unpacked my bags. I turned down the offer in New York. I worked 80-hour weeks for free, managing their closings, handling their escrow accounts, keeping the ship afloat. 3 weeks into the summer, while I was eating a cold sandwich at my desk at 9 p.m., I saw a notification pop up on the company credit card, the one I monitored. $12,000. The Ritz-Carlton, Maui. I thought it was fraud. I called my mother in a panic. "Oh, honey, don't worry," she said, her voice breezy, clearly sipping a Mai Tai. "We just needed a little break." And Sterling was feeling so down about failing his barista class, we thought a family trip would cheer him up. Hold down the fort. They were in Hawaii with my brother, using the money I had generated by working for free. I sat in that silent office, the hum of the air conditioner the only sound in the room, and I stopped being their daughter. I opened a new spreadsheet. I named it the exit strategy. I realized then that they didn't love me. They loved my utility, and utility is a resource, and resources eventually run out. I didn't quit that day. I didn't yell. I kept working, but I stopped fixing their mistakes. Instead, I started documenting them. I downloaded every ledger, every shady write-off, every misappropriated fund. They thought I was keeping the books. I was billing a case. 1 week before the ceremony, the shark tank that was my parents' house suddenly turned into a petting zoo. They invited me over for dinner, not takeout on paper plates, but a real dinner. Roast chicken, wine that didn't come from a box, and miracle of miracles, Sterling was nowhere to be found. My father poured me a glass of Pinot Noir, his hand shaking slightly. My mother was beaming, that manic, high-wattage smile she usually reserved for clients she was about to rip off. "Aurelia," my father started, clearing his throat, "we know we've been hard on you. We know we rely on you too much. But we want you to know that we see you. We are so incredibly proud of this degree." For a second, just a split second, the little girl inside me, who just wanted her dad to put her artwork on the fridge, woke up. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him. My mother slid a heavy cream-colored envelope across the table. "This is your graduation gift," she whispered, tears glistening in her eyes. "We're transferring the deed to the West Side condo to your name. It's yours. A rental property to start your portfolio. You've earned it. The West Side condo. It was the crown jewel of their small portfolio. Fully paid off. Reliable tenants. Worth at least $500,000. It was a gesture so grand, so generous that it almost erased the years of neglect. I took the envelope. I thanked them. I even hugged my mother. I drove home with the folder on the passenger seat, feeling a strange warmth in my chest. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe they weren't monsters. Maybe they were just struggling people trying their best. But old habits die hard, and I am an actuary. We don't operate on faith. We operate on verification. At 11 p.m., sitting in my dark apartment, I opened the folder. The deed looked legitimate. My name was typed neatly on the line, but something felt off. The date of the transfer was yesterday. I logged into the county recorder's official database. It's public record, if you know where to look. I typed in the parcel ID for the West Side condo. The screen refreshed, and the warmth in my chest turned into absolute zero. There were 3 liens against the property. 3. One from a private hard money lender with a predatory interest rate. One from a bail bondsman, Sterling's DUI last year, I realized. And a third one, a massive home equity line of credit taken out 2 months ago. The equity was gone. The condo wasn't an asset. It was a liability. They weren't giving me a property. They were handing me a sinking ship filled with debt so they could wash their hands of the payments. If I accepted this gift, I would be legally responsible for $600,000 of debt. I sat back, feeling bile rise in my throat, but I wasn't done digging. I pulled my own credit report, something I did every quarter. I scanned the list of open accounts. And there it was, SBA small business loan, cosigner Aurelia, last name, dated 3 months ago, a $50,000 loan taken out for Sterling Entertainment LLC. I stared at the digital signature. It looked exactly like mine. A perfect forgery. My mother hadn't just tried to dump bad debt on me. She had stolen my identity to fund a shell company for my brother. They looked me in the eye, fed me roast chicken, and handed me a financial grenade wrapped in a bow, all while knowing they had already committed a felony using my name. That was the moment the last tether snapped. The little girl who wanted approval died in that chair. I didn't call the police. Not yet. That would be too messy, too quick. I wanted them to hurt. I closed my laptop. I poured the rest of the wine down the sink. They wanted to play with debt? Fine. I knew a guy who bought distressed debt pennies on the dollar. I knew the loopholes in the contract they forged. I picked up my phone and dialed a number I had saved for emergencies. Hello, Mr. Henderson? It's Aurelia. You know that portfolio of toxic loans you were looking to offload? I'm interested, specifically the ones held by my parents. I walked out of the auditorium and into the blinding California sun. Around me, the world was exploding with joy. Fathers were lifting daughters into the air. Mothers were adjusting tassels and wiping lipstick off cheeks. I stood alone on the concrete, holding the piece of paper that proved I was an expert in risk management, and the biggest risk of my life was currently vibrating in my hand. It was my mother calling, finally. I stared at the screen for 3 rings before answering. I didn't say hello. I just listened. Aurelia! Oh, thank God, her voice was breathless, chaotic. In the background, I could hear the distinct sound of seagulls and techno music. Look, I know we said we'd be there, but Sterling had a wardrobe crisis. The tailor messed up his linen suit for the yacht party, and we had to drive all the way to Rodeo Drive to fix it. You know how he gets when he doesn't feel confident. A wardrobe crisis. They missed my college graduation because my 24-year-old brother needed a new pair of pants. And honey, she continued, rushing the words now, the guilt barely masking the greed, about the car. I know you saw the transfer notification. We got a great cash offer. Sterling needs liquidity for this party. It's a networking event, really. He's going to meet investors for his app, or was it the record label? Anyway, it's an investment. You're the smart one. You understand ROI. You can buy yourself 10 cars later. ROI, return on investment. She was lecturing me on ROI while pouring gasoline on my inheritance to keep my brother warm. I understand, Mom, I said. My voice didn't shake. It sounded like a dial tone. I understand perfectly. Oh, good. You're such a trooper. We'll do a dinner next week, maybe Tuesday. Dad wants to talk to you about refinancing the office again. Sure, Mom, Tuesday. I hung up. I didn't go back to my apartment to cry into a pillow. I didn't go to a bar to drown my sorrows. I walked to the parking lot, got into my rental car because they had sold my actual car, and drove straight to the financial district. The office of Henderson and Associates was quiet, smelling of mahogany and old money. Mr. Henderson, a man who specialized in buying distressed assets, a polite term for financial garbage, was waiting for me. On his desk sat a stack of documents. Are you sure about this, Aurelia? He asked, peering over his glasses. Once you sign this, you become the primary holder of the debt. You aren't just buying the note. You're buying the right to enforce it. It's aggressive. It's personal. I looked at the papers. This was the toxic loan portfolio I had asked about last night. My parents, in their infinite wisdom, had taken out a high-risk private bridge loan to cover the payroll taxes they missed last year. They had used the family home as collateral, and true to form, they had defaulted on the last 3 payments because they were too busy funding Sterling's lifestyle. The lender wanted out. They were happy to sell the debt to a third party for 80 cents on the dollar just to be done with the headache. I had emptied my savings account. I had liquidated my small investment portfolio. I had used every cent I earned from my internships. I'm sure, I said. I picked up the pen. The ink flowed smoothly. Aurelia, managing partner, Vesper Holdings, LLC. I handed the papers back. Mr. Henderson stamped them. Congratulations, he said, his voice void of emotion. You now own the mortgage on your parents' house, and since they are 90 days delinquent, you have the right to accelerate the loan. Accelerate it, I said. Call the note due. Today. I walked out of that office as the sun began to set. I wasn't just their daughter anymore. I was their creditor, and unlike them, I didn't believe in forgiveness. The beautiful thing about owning someone's debt is that you don't just own their past mistakes, you own their present reality. My parents thought they were dealing with Vesper Holdings LLC, a faceless, aggressive investment firm that had unluckily bought their mortgage note. They had no idea that Vesper was the name of the imaginary friend I had when I was 6 years old, the one I talked to when they were too busy with Sterling to notice I existed. I sat in my rental car, parked across the street from the Golden Coast Yacht Club. The venue was glowing. Billets were running back and forth. I could see my mother pacing near the entrance, phone glued to her ear, looking frantic. I opened my laptop on the passenger seat. The glow of the screen illuminated the smile I couldn't wipe off my face. Because I had been their bookkeeper for so long, I still had the admin passwords to everything. They never changed them. Why would they? That would require effort, and they preferred to outsource effort to me. I logged into the business banking portal. The balance was artificially high, likely from the cash they got selling my car and the fraudulent loan they took out in my name. I watched the pending transactions feed refresh in real time. The Velvet Rope Catering, $18,500. Pending. DJ Prestige, $5,000. Pending. Elite Mixology, $7,200. Pending. They were blowing through $40,000 in a single night. Money that should have gone to the IRS. Money that should have paid the mortgage I now owned. It was time. I opened a second tab, the fraud prevention portal for the bank that held the $50,000 SBA loan, the one with my forged signature. I uploaded the affidavit I had notarized an hour ago. I, Aurelia, certify that I did not sign this document. The signature is a forgery committed by the primary applicants. I am initiating a formal identity theft report. I hit submit. Banks don't mess around with identity theft, especially not with federal loans. The algorithm is immediate. I switched back to the banking tab. I hit refresh. The status of the accounts changed from green to a flashing red locked fraud suspicion. Then I picked up my phone and called the venue manager of the yacht club. I had met him years ago when I organized my parents' anniversary party, which I also paid for. Hi, David. It's Aurelia. I'm just giving you a heads up as a courtesy. You're about to run the final charge for the event tonight, right? Oh, hi, Aurelia. Yes, we're just running the card for the remaining balance now. You might want to ask for cash, I said, my voice dripping with false concern. I heard there's a freeze on their assets. I wouldn't want you to be out of pocket. I hung up just as I saw my mother freeze on the sidewalk. She pulled the phone away from her ear, staring at it in horror. She tapped the screen furiously, then she ran toward my father, grabbing his arm. I looked at the banking feed again. The Velvet Rope Catering, $18,500, declined. DJ Prestige, $5,000, declined. The financial guillotine had fallen. The music hadn't even started, but the party was already over. They just didn't know who had cut the power. They thought it was a glitch. They thought it was a mistake they could yell their way out of. I closed my laptop. I checked my reflection in the rearview mirror. I applied a fresh coat of red lipstick. It was time to make an appearance. Not as the dutiful daughter coming to fix the problem, but as the landlord coming to collect the rent. The scene inside the yacht club was a masterpiece of panic. The music had stopped. The ambient lighting was still pink and purple, but the mood was pure gray. Near the entrance, my father was screaming at the venue manager, his face a dangerous shade of crimson. My mother was frantically digging through her purse, pulling out card after card, all of them useless plastic. Sterling was standing off to the side, holding a glass of champagne he hadn't paid for, looking bored and annoyed, as if the bankruptcy of his family was just a minor inconvenience to his vibe. When I walked through the double doors, the air shifted. My mother spotted me first. Her face didn't show shame. It showed relief. She actually thought I was there to bail them out. She rushed over, grabbing my arm with a grip that bruised. Oh, really? Thank God. There's a glitch in the banking system. The fraud department locked everything. Give them your card. We'll transfer the money to you on Monday. Hurry, people are staring. Give them your card. Not hello. Not congratulations on graduating. Just give us your money. I pulled my arm away. I didn't look at her. I looked at the venue manager. David, I said, my voice projecting clearly over the murmurs of the confused guests. Is the microphone on? He nodded, looking terrified. He handed it to me. My father froze mid-shout. Sterling finally looked up from his phone. The guests, investors, friends, local socialites turned to watch. They expected a toast. "Good evening," I said. The speakers crackled, silencing the room. My mother just asked me to put this party on my card. She says it's a glitch, but I think we should be honest. I saw my mother's eyes widen. She started to step forward, hissing, "Aurelia, don't you dare!" I continued, my voice ice cold. "It's not a glitch. The accounts are frozen because I reported them for fraud. You see, my parents took out a $50,000 loan in my name to fund this party. They forged my signature. That's a felony." A collective gasp ripped through the room. My father lunged toward the stage, but security, David's security, stepped in his way. "And the reason they can't pay the venue," I went on, locking eyes with Sterling, "is because they are bankrupt. They sold my car yesterday to pay for the deposit. But they forgot about the mortgage." I reached into my bag and pulled out the document Mr. Henderson had given me. I held it up. "You guys know Vesper Holdings, right? The firm that bought your distressed mortgage note this morning? The firm you've been ignoring calls from all day." My father went pale. He knew the name. He had seen the email notification. Vesper was the name of my imaginary friend when I was 6. I smiled. A sharp, dangerous thing. "I am Vesper Holdings. I bought your debt. I own the note. And since you are 90 days delinquent and currently committing financial fraud." I walked down the steps of the stage, the crowd parting for me like the Red Sea. I walked right up to my father and slapped the papers against his chest. "This is a notice of acceleration and foreclosure. You have 24 hours to vacate the premises. The locks change tomorrow at noon. The house is mine." Sterling dropped his champagne glass. It shattered on the marble floor, the sound echoing in the dead silence. "You can't do that," my mother shrieked, her social mask finally crumbling into hysteria. "We are your parents. We made you." "You made an investment," I corrected her, stepping back. "And today, I'm liquidating it." I turned to the guests. "Enjoy the open bar, everyone. I'm pretty sure David here is going to call the cops in about 5 minutes, so drink up while you can." I walked out the way I came. I didn't run. I didn't look back. Behind me, I heard my mother screaming my name, a sound of pure, unadulterated ruin. Noon the next day wasn't dramatic. It was just administrative. I stood at the end of the driveway watching the locksmith drill out the deadbolt on the front door. The sound was high-pitched and whining, like a dentist drill hitting a nerve. My parents were sitting on 3 cardboard boxes on the lawn. They looked like refugees from a country called Delusion. My mother's mascara was smeared across her cheek. My father was staring at the grass, defeated. Sterling was pacing, furiously texting someone, probably a friend with a couch he could crash on, though I doubted anyone was replying after last night's show. When a locksmith gave me the thumbs up, my mother stood up. She walked toward me, not with anger this time, but with a terrifying, desperate hope. "Aurelia," she croaked, "please, we have nowhere to go. The bank accounts are still frozen. We can't even rent a motel room. Just let us stay for a week. Until we sort this out, we're your flesh and blood." I looked at her. I looked at the house where I spent 18 years being invisible. I looked at the window of my old bedroom, the one where I studied tax law while they planned vacations without me. "You can't stay here," I said calmly, "because I don't own it anymore." Her eyes widened. "What?" "I sold the property at 9 a.m. this morning. I checked my watch. To a developer. Cash offer. Closed in 2 hours. They're bulldozing it on Monday to build condos." My father let out a sound that was half sob, half choke. You sold our home to be demolished, but the equity, there has to be profit left over. Give us the check, Aurelia. If you sold it, you owe us the difference." I laughed. It was a genuine laugh. "There is no check for you, Gad. I used the proceeds to pay off the toxic loans you took out. Then I used the rest to pay my lawyer's retainer for the identity theft case against you. And the remainder, that's my commission for managing your exit. I turned to Sterling. He stopped pacing. He looked small. And you, I said, you wanted to be a mogul? Go be one. Figure it out. My mother grabbed my arm again. But where will we go? What do we do? I pulled my arm free. I leaned in close so she could hear the absolute zero in my voice. You have a son, the visionary, the golden boy. Let him provide for you. I'm sure his investors will help. I turned around and walked toward the waiting Uber. Aurelia, she screamed, falling to her knees on the manicured grass. You can't leave us like this. I'm your mother. I opened the car door. I looked back one last time. No, I said. You were a liability, and I just cleared you from the books. I got in. I watched them shrink in the rearview mirror, 3 small broken figures sitting on a lawn that wasn't theirs, in front of a house that was about to be dust. 2 days later, I was in New York. I sat in my new apartment in Tribeca. It was empty, clean, and quiet. My phone buzzed. It was a text from a blocked number. I didn't read it. I just hit delete all. I walked to the window. The city lights were 1,000,000 miles away from San Diego. I poured a glass of champagne. My name is Aurelia, but to them, I will always be Vesper, the ghost who finally came to collect, and business is good.